Here. All right. And without further ado, I'm going to hand things off to Gabby, who is a peer career assistant in the Career Center. She's a class of 27, and she's going to be facilitating tonight's panel. I would also appreciate if you're able to do so. Please turn your cameras on. Let us see your smiling faces. You can keep things on mute, but we'd love to be able to see all your faces out there as well. So, Gabby, please take it away.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everybody. Like Ben mentioned, my name is Gabby Vlasic. I'm a junior psychology major working at the Career Center. And I just want to say again from all of us, thank you again for registering and joining us today. And a special thank you to all the alums that came out. So I'm really excited to introduce our four fantastic alumni speakers. We can start with Karina Camargo and then just go to down the line. Kind of tell us just like what you do, where you live, what marketing means to you, whatever you do in the marketing realm, and just like the gist.
Yeah, hi everybody. Nice to see you and meet you. I'm Karina Camargo. I am a senior manager of ad sales marketing at Fubo. So advertising sales marketing is a very unique type of marketing that I ended up falling into pretty soon after school and have done this ever since. So I currently lead the creation and management of marketing collateral, RFP responses, social media strategy like LinkedIn, and overall campaign coordination that drives advertising sales growth. And I live in Astoria, Queens right now in New York City.
Okay, awesome. And then we can go to Cecile next.
Hey everyone, my name's Cecile. I work my own small company focused on social impact and sustainability communications, and I'm based in Puerto Rico. And we work with a whole host of clients from large multinational companies to small boutiques to startups to more nonprofit-based organizations, just helping us streamline comms and messaging for different audiences.
Awesome. Next up, we'll have Caitlin.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin Julius. I graduated in 2009. I live now in Washington, D.C. I'm a deputy director at formerly the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, now the Gates Foundation. I'm still not quite used to calling it the new name. I oversee a team of 10 on our digital communications side within our communications division. So I oversee writers, content creators, strategists, all the people who feed into our social media, our website, some of our paid advertising, our email newsletters. It's a lot of storytelling. I guess marketing for me has been a lot of storytelling. I've always been plugged in on the nonprofit side, and so you're kind of usually inspiring someone to give or take action. The Gates Foundation is particularly unique because we're orienting more around the action side of things than the giving side of things. It's a lot of fun. It's also a lot of stakeholder management. Like comms needs to be fast, but large workplaces can be slow, and so that's an interesting challenge. Yeah, and I'm excited to share more today.
Awesome. And then last but not least, we have Lily.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Lily Ron. I graduated Holy Cross in 2020. I work as a lead communications consultant at Wells Fargo, and I specifically support communications for their credit card portfolio. So all external comms, everything from press releases, social content, paid media, influencer, PR campaigns, media training our executives. And I'm based in New York City.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys again for serving as our panelists. We can get started. So we have a variety of different questions that kind of touch up with your current work, how you got started, and what us Holy Cross students can be doing now. So if Caitlin, you want to begin with how you what you currently do, and then how your career trajectory has evolved since graduating from Holy Cross.
Sure. Yes. So like I said, I oversee a team within the communications division at the Gates Foundation. The communications division itself probably has probably about 80 or so, 80 to 100 staff. So I'm just one part of a much bigger organism. Most of my team are based in the US, but we have colleagues across Africa, India, Europe. And like I said, I specifically oversee our digital comms, which feels like kind of a very different space than what I always think of as like the other side of the house, which is the more traditional PR earned media comms. And I think an interesting thing about this space right now, we're currently undergoing a, big strategy shift where I think somewhat behind the curve, and I'll be interested to hear from my other colleagues on this call. The foundation is really recognizing like, oh, the future lays a little more in the digital side of things than some of that traditional earned media side of things. Um, I get to tell a lot of stories. I do a lot of strategy, get to work with a lot of partners. Some of the best parts of my jobs are talking to like the amazing scientists and researchers and activists who we fund. So it's really inspiring. I got into this work. I actually did the Jesuit Volunteer Corps after Holy Cross. So a shout out to that wonderful institution. And I think it did legitimately give me some valuable um, job skills at a time. I graduated in 2009. Much like now, it was not the easiest time to go out and find a job, and that did give me some skills on my resume that I think I otherwise wouldn't have had. I went on to work in New York City. I guess I have some New Yorkers on the call here for several years. First at a small domestic violence legal services nonprofit where I did everything from fundraising to event planning to communications, realized that I really enjoyed the communications side of things. In particular, this was long enough ago too that it was like, wow, like Facebook seems like a cool thing we could use for something. What should we do with it? A very like starry-eyed period of time when the internet was pure fun. Um, I went on to work at a digital agency, which I really do recommend anyone interested in this work. I think working at an agency at some point is incredibly valuable. Almost everyone I work with, frankly, came from an agency because the foundation, a lot of in-house places kind of value the skills you get there. I worked at an agency called Blue State Digital, focused specifically on nonprofits and political clients, but there's a ton of different agencies out there doing really cool things. And then really got recruited to this role, first kind of overseeing our web content, and then more recently stepping up into the deputy director role. Um, it's been a really interesting time to do this work over the past, I guess, 15 years now. I cannot think of a landscape that has changed more. And even I think a year ago, if I were having this conversation, I would probably be like barely referencing AI. And that feels like inevitably a part of this conversation tonight. So, yeah. That's me. That's my background.
Awesome. Thank you, Caitlin. Cecile, would you like to go next?
Sure.
Awesome.
So I graduated Holy Cross. At Holy Cross, I interned at besides working for Ben, hi Ben, I interned in the PR and media department and magazine and whatnot, and that kind of catapulted my work in comms. Left Holy Cross and worked at a social good PR firm, and then at Harpoon, more in an executive assistant role, which is a role I recommend everybody has because it humbles you a lot and you get to meet everybody on a different level. And internal comms, moved back to Puerto Rico, and then worked here for a lot of different small projects, did a master's in Spain in comms, and then worked in the nonprofit industry in entrepreneurial development. And then eventually just kind of wound up deciding that there were more direct ways to kind of have more of an impact and help in comms across smaller companies, large scale organizations, and kind of push the social impact storytelling and narrative a bit more clear. So then I founded my own small company in 2018, and then we've been working with clients ever since.
Awesome. And then Lily, would you like to go next?
Yes. So I do external communications for Wells Fargo and their credit card portfolio. So everything from, traditional media side of things, so press releases, earned media outreach. And then I really agree with what Caitlin was saying, which is the digital and social side is becoming a much bigger priority for Wells Fargo and a lot of other big banks. So social and influencer and paid media is becoming a larger part of my role in comms. We at Wells Fargo, our comms team collaborates really closely with our marketing and advertising partners. So there is a lot, the line between marketing and advertising and comms is becoming much more blurred with the advent of digital media. So a lot of my job is working very closely with marketing and advertising partners on a lot of those assets. Um, we do a lot of cool PR campaigns. One recently, we just launched a commercial with Reese Witherspoon. So you might start seeing some TV ads if you're watching TV. If you see a Wells Fargo ad with Reese Witherspoon, I worked on that. So we do fun campaigns like that. And then we do a lot of other like non-glamorous things like writing social copy and writing press releases and writing internal memos and things like that. Um, in terms of my career trajectory, right after I graduated Holy Cross, I went to work for a company called Real Chemistry. They are a PR agency that specializes in healthcare communications work. So I was working with pharmaceutical companies, biotech companies, healthcare technology companies. I was there for about 2 years. And I got the job because I had interned at that company the summer in between my junior and senior year. So I interned there and then I reached back out to the HR contact that spring when I was a senior and applying to jobs, interviewed, and then they offered me a full-time position. So that was kind of the connection. So I would definitely say like lean on your internship experiences as much as possible because they're very valuable in terms of landing a full-time role. Um, I worked there for 2 years and then I went to a different agency called Fleischman Hillard and started doing more consumer PR work. So moved a little bit away from some of the healthcare work. I definitely agree with Caitlin that agency experience is incredibly valuable. A lot of the people I work with in-house at Wells Fargo come from an agency background, and all the women I report to come from an agency background. So it's definitely very valuable in the comm space. So I would totally recommend starting at an agency like right out of college. I think it's an amazing place to start your career. I think you get a lot of broad experience. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Lily. And then Karina.
Yeah, so let me back it up a little bit from what I said in the intro. Like, I don't know if everybody's familiar with Fubo. So for those who don't know what Fubo is essentially a cable replacement service. So it's technically called a virtual MVPD, which is a multi-channel video programming distributor. And we aggregate primarily live sports, entertainment, and news. So it's a streamer similar to Hulu Plus, Live TV, Sling, YouTube TV. I'm not sure if any of you guys are subscribers. But yeah, and then also to explain what ad sales marketing is, like ad sales marketing is essentially supporting sales and convincing media buyers and the video investment teams to buy our inventory on our platform so that their ads, like clients' ads can run. And that's anything from video commercials like 30s and 60s and 15s to the newer innovative ad products that are rolling out and that you're probably familiar with now, which are like pause ads and interactive ads like trivia and poll questions. And then the classic like banner ads or homepage takeovers that you see that are like big, on the home screen, the first thing that you see. And so basically like clients will come to us with a brief that has a lot of information, like flight, which is like the timing of the campaign, what their goals are to achieve, the budget that they have. And we put together the best solution from, we're called a publisher. So how we can help them reach their goals based on all this information. So it's really building a deck presentation, it's pitching with sales, it's bringing, those campaigns to life when they sell through and things like that. But yeah, in terms of my career trajectory, so since Holy Cross, I have bounced around a little bit. I started off at NBC right off the bat, like a week after graduation. I actually was in the Page program at NBC Universal here on the East Coast. So happy to talk about that more if that's of interest to anyone. It's definitely something that I recommend to all students that are interested in media entertainment, especially coming from a liberal arts background where you might not be sure like what exactly you want to do in media entertainment, but that's of interest. This is kind of like a year-long crash course and kind of like exploring the industry and what you might like, similar to how you explore different majors before you decide at Holy Cross. So I did a lot of production there, and marketing I had done more in like my internships, but I did a lot of production and then ended up getting a full-time position at NBC in the ad sales division. So I never actually thought I would end up in sales like ever. And now like I love it. And marketing is it's marketing, it's not sales, but it's still sales marketing. So that's how I started. And then I ended up going over to Hearst magazines for a little bit, went to Warner Bros. Discovery. I was actually Legacy Discovery before the merger. And then I was at WME, which is a talent agency, very quickly. I don't know if you watched Entourage, but like Ari Emanuel's character, it runs that agency. I did more of like the fashion side of things there, so like New York Fashion Week. And then I was recruited here at Fubo about a year and a half ago, and now I'm in like live sports with entertainment and news, like I said. So happy to discuss more about each of those experiences if anybody has questions. But yeah, to what everybody said, like it's a very exciting, ever-changing industry, and it's a lot of fun. So it's been good.
Awesome. Thank you guys for your answers for that. I feel like we have a lot of different jobs and positions, so it's super cool to hear all the different perspectives. I guess the next question would just be like, what does upskilling mean to you? In what ways can students here upskill while currently in college? And Cecile, would you want to start with that one?
I think upskilling is constantly learning that there's different avenues and opportunities of education that aren't necessarily in the comms field. I was at Holy Cross, I took arts classes, I took photography, I took storytelling, sociology of TV and media, I took film classes. So all these different opportunities that you might not think are directly related to comms and marketing and advertising, but they do inform your worldview and how you kind of channel either artistic or visual or comms or written or copy, and they kind of help you evolve as a more well-rounded professional. I think there's also a lot of value in certifications. We're seeing a lot more uptick in niche certifications. So I took one in circular economy, and I took that online in the middle of the pandemic. That's an upskilling you can do. It's very manageable, but it does open a set of doors. And it creates a way for you to connect with people a bit more than just your basic degree. That's probably my best recommendation. And there's a ton of avenues that are also very affordable for students as well. Try and check through your career center. If there's maybe discounts that Holy Cross students can get or different opportunities, you can reach out to alumni. If their companies might be offering these certifications as well. I think that's what I found a lot of value in.
Awesome. I don't know if anyone like Karina, Caitlin, Lily has an answer right away, but
Yeah, I can jump in because I had two similar ones to Cecile. So I did the same thing, like in terms of your coursework, especially senior year when you have like more wiggle room at that point to like play around with some open course credits. I always recommend like focusing on your personal passions and maybe thinking outside the box if you see like a course of interest. So I did this with two courses in particular. One was at the time it was called Persuasive Communication. I don't know if it still exists now, but essentially it required an internship in partnership with the class. So you like did the internship and then applied those experiences and learnings to the course, and it was like the closest thing to a marketing course that kind of existed back then. So I recommend that. I was able to get an internship at Univision in Boston, and so that was kind of like again more during the year because I did internships in the summer, but during the year I could do an internship in like the newsroom and learn about like the fast-paced environment of a news program and going out in the streets and building packages with the reporters, and just learning how they create their stories and their assigned stories and things like that. The other one that I also like to talk about is there was a music business course, and I actually studied abroad, and I discovered this junior year abroad, and it was offered alternating year. So unfortunately, when I was going to come back senior year, it wasn't going to be offered, but I asked if I could do like an independent study with the professor, and he allowed it. And so I was able to get that information that was of interest to me. And then because it was an independent study, I could tailor it to like my personal interests. So in that case, it was like Latin music and like digital marketing and media, and which applied now, funny enough, to like streaming for music. And now I'm like working in the streaming for TV. So that kind of just put that together. Those are some ways. And then the other thing, again, I'm gonna obviously talk about the career services center because we have like an career development center at Holy Cross. And not just saying that, like it's really truly when you see like some of your peers at other schools, they don't have half of what we have. And even like almost 10 years out, it's still amazing. So some of the things that I did there with the Women in Business Conference. So sorry to the guys, but the Women in Business Conference was amazing for me. I went every year except for the one that I was studying abroad. But what I would do was take those like directories that they give you and keep all the contacts. And then like again, senior year when I started figuring out where I really wanted to head, there were a lot of media entertainment alumni. And again, it was kind of fewer and farther between back then, but now there's more. But I would cold email and cold call. And that's actually how I found out about the PAGE program because somebody had been a PAGE prior. She explained that to me. She told me about it. And then I ended up applying when the timing was right for that cohort of the summer after I graduated. So again, a week after graduation, I started that. There's also like I don't know if you still have like Alana, but there's Alana mentorship programs, there's regular mentorship programs. All of those are really amazing. There's alumni job shadow programs. So really take advantage of that. And even like mock interviews and like when you have interviews going on, you can go to them and share like this is the job description and they can really give you a good fake interview to help you practice and prepare. So those are the two big ones. And then I think like studying abroad too is just another way to like learn about. For me personally, it was helped me to like to learn how to live in a city. Like I'm from the suburbs, and so I used to think New York City was super overwhelming, and now I've been here almost 10 years, which is crazy. So that was like one of the biggest things that helped me just like learning how to live in a different culture and a fast-paced city environment with public transportation and things like that. But yeah.
Awesome. Caitlin or Lily, if you want to touch on that.
I can jump in. No one's mentioned this, maybe because it is so obvious to this youthful audience. But like videoing and editing social content and like a lot of I barely know how to do that, so I am so impressed and would not be able to do my job without my colleagues, my younger colleagues especially, who are so natural at that. But what I would build on is finding opportunities to also like pitch ideas for that, to learn how to script write, to storyboard out things, because it is really different to be developing that for an institution or an executive voice or something like that, where you do have to kind of get people aligned with your plans in advance. So looking for those kinds of opportunities. Really basic analytics and reporting, I think, is just like a really base skill that anyone in marketing and comms, especially the digital side, needs. I imagine if you're involved in running any kind of like social account for a club, you do some of that. But even if you're, I don't know, participating in like a sociology project with like a quantitative analysis side, I would argue you can probably take some learnings from that and apply them to, garnering insights from a communications campaign. Um, Opportunities for interviewing and storytelling, always really useful. I'd be curious, I don't know, but like, does the comms office at Holy Cross take interns? One kind of area we haven't really covered, I don't think anyone here's background is in as much as like executive communications, but that is a whole world. The Holy Cross president, I'm sure some of the deans have people who help shape their speeches, shape their talking points, all of that. That's like a whole other world of communications. It's really interesting. And I think a liberal arts career in particular really lines you up well for, because you can read, write, and think critically. Um, I don't know, this might be going away, but early on, just knowing really basic coding skills was useful for me, because I could like code an email newsletter or like a really basic website. Um, AI, learning to like create your own like AI agents that can like edit your writing to a specific voice or help you create briefs. I don't know how useful that is in your current day to day, but just exploring that a little bit and having a few examples of like, oh yeah, I've been able to use AI to like create this efficiency in my day to day is really translatable, I think. The last thing I'll say is just like not all skills are hard skills. I mentioned earlier a huge amount of what I do is like stakeholder management, because in communications you are often having to bring a lot of different people and stakeholders along. Um, I'm sure many of you are involved in projects, in clubs, in all sorts of things where you are pushing forward ideas and activations that involve bringing along a lot of people, colleagues, professors, administration, whoever. And so being able to like translate that experience to your interviews, I think is really, really valuable.
Perfect. Lily.
I'll echo that. I think soft skills have been, I think, even more helpful to me in my career than some of the hard skills. And I feel like a lot of the hard skills or technical skills I've been able to kind of like pick up on the job, but it's been like the soft skills that I learned at Holy Cross that have been most valuable to me. So I'll emphasize writing in particular. Everyone wants to hire a strong writer, whether you end up in communications or whether you end up in a different field entirely. Like everyone wants to hire a strong writer and a strong editor too. And it is really frustrating when you work with people who aren't strong writers. So any opportunity you have at Holy Cross to strengthen and refine your writing and editing skills, whether that's like through your coursework and taking a writing intensive class, whether it's a workshop that's offered, whether it's an internship that's writing intensive, any opportunity you have to really hone in on writing and editing skills, I think is supremely valuable, especially for comms because it is a writing intensive field, but really for any industry. And I think is something that can easily be worked on and will really differentiate you from your peers in your job. I'll also echo that the Career Center at Holy Cross is incredibly valuable, and I would utilize them for as much as possible. This might sound extreme, but I would not send anything out to any employer without running it by the Career Center first. Like I would not send out a resume, a cover letter without running it by someone at the Career Center first. I think having a second set of eyes on it and having someone who does this for a living and is experienced in like writing and refining resumes and cover letters and like having them gut check your work is supremely valuable and will go a long way in helping you land an internship, a job, whatever it is. So those are my two plugs.
Awesome. Thank you guys. You guys also kind of answered the question I was going to ask next about how we leverage, like how you guys leverage your liberal arts background. So kind of just through like different classes and courses, and like we're lucky enough to have different courses that could help us even if we're not like going to be in that specific area. Classes like writing or English could help us like in the long run for marketing, like you were saying, Lily. So that's awesome. I know Lily, you talked about working with like internships when applying to like your jobs after college, and Karina, you talked about taking those pamphlets or papers from that Women in Business conference. So I guess kind of like what planned or unplanned events connected you to your industry and your first job after Holy Cross, and how did you decide that it was like the best fit for you? Anyone can start. Caitlin, Seal.
Is the summer internship program like still a thing? I feel like we used to call it SIP. Is that still? Yes,
Yeah.
that is how I got my first job. I did SIP 2 years in a row. The first year was at a healthcare communications agency. The next year was at the domestic violence agency I ended up working at in New York City for a couple of years in communications. Um, and in between, I mentioned I did JVC. But I think that combination of having interned there and then having some like kind of like real life work, even though it wasn't the same kind of work I ended up doing, kind of persuaded them. So yeah, I know everyone has mentioned internships already and everyone has mentioned how awesome career services is, but underscoring that completely, and that really does line you up. And those jobs are paid. Back then, not all the internships were paid. It was amazing. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
I would echo that sentiment. I had two summer internships through the Career Center during my time at Holy Cross, one between my sophomore and junior year, and then one between my junior and senior year. And that was how I landed my first job after college. And I've kept in touch with a lot of people that I like the Holy Cross alums that I interned with. Like I still am connected with them on LinkedIn. I'll still reach out to them every now and then. So um, once you have like your first internship experience, it's also really important to nurture those relationships and like keep in contact with those people and like check in with them every few months because fostering those relationships is what will help land you like your next job or the one after that. So once you have landed that first internship or first job, making sure to really foster those relationships so that you continue building your network.
Yeah, I would also like to plug SIP. It really was the best. And truthfully, like going back to the NBC Universal Page program, they really looked at internship experience for that. I was in the minority that wasn't a prior NBC intern. Like most of the page, I would say like 75% of the pages were NBC interns prior. So I was not one of those, which was cool. But just like being able to have that internship experience to speak on thanks to SIP, that really helped. I also had an internship in New York City the summer after I came back from study abroad. That also helped me realize I could handle New York City, and then I ended up here. Um, and same with that persuasive communication course that I had the internship with at Univision Boston. That actually led to my first job offer, but then I was in the middle of interviewing for the Page program, so I had to take like a risky decision of like I feel really good about the interview, so I'm gonna have to like deny this nice offer and hope for the best, and it worked out for the best, so that was great. But yeah, really essentially like I'm gonna plug the NBC Page program, but that was really like what helped me learn and decide that media entertainment was a good fit for me, and also just like which departments in particular, because I went from like you work the late night shows, you give tours of like you do audience coordination for like Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers, SNL, like Today Show on the Plaza. And then you also work in different departments. So I actually went to Miami for 3 months and I worked at Telemundo, the cable channel Universo, and I did production development there. I came back and I did the New Year's Eve ball drop in Times Square for Telemundo live events. And then I went on to work in like corporate diversity, which was more HR and like recruiting, diverse talent for the company. And then the last one I did was Today Show production, where I'm like booking travel and hotels and trains and cars for all the guests that appeared on the show. So it really like broadens your horizons, and you can tell it's 3 months per assignment, and that's plenty of time to figure out if you can see yourself being in these environments long term or not. And again, you build your network that way. So um, that was really what kind of helped me realize that this was the good fit for me, and ultimately led to my first full-time position after that.
Awesome. We have student questions soon, but I'm just going to ask one last question. What parting advice would you give the students here today? Anyone can start. Cecile, if you could start, that could be awesome. I think you're on mute. Okay, perfect.
I think comms is anywhere and everywhere. It's very industry agnostic, and I think your experience at Holy Cross or whether it be small internships translate well to a ton of different industries. So it's fun because I started in the brewing and alcohol industry, and now I'm in social impact. And that's based on this whole trajectory that I've had with comms and how it evolves and how storytelling, messaging, internal comms, external comms kind of all melds together, and how that can also inform how you progress professionally. I mean, my business background led me to my business comms masters, which then led me to working in like a more business corporate in-house comms space. So just don't be afraid to kind of not necessarily fit the mold, but see how you can fit the needs of that company and then how you can adapt it to comms in general. And I'd be happy to speak more about that if any of you guys have doubts one-on-one, but just know that it's a really great industry because you're going to be able to work in any field and grow along with it.
Awesome. Lily, if you want to go next.
Yes, I would say my parting advice would be to keep an open mind about what your career could look like. I think a lot of what SLM shared today, like our career background, we've bopped around in different companies, we've worked in different types of industries, we've held different types of roles. And a lot of our career paths haven't been linear. And I think that's very normal. So I would say to keep an open mind about your career and where you could potentially end up. I think a lot of times coming right out of college, like you might not like your first job out of college, and that's like very normal experience. And it does, I think, for a lot of people, take a few tries to find something that clicks and that you really like. So I would just say keep an open mind about your career path and your career trajectory. And don't be afraid to try something new that you had never thought of before because you could end up really liking it.
Awesome. Caitlin?
I guess two quick things. One, my one hot take is to submit a cover letter if you're applying for a communications job. Like you have nothing to lose, and at best it shows that you went the extra distance and hopefully that you are a good writer. And as Lily said, that is still a really valued skill, especially in this industry. The other thing is so many people, so many of you all panelists talked about just like your contacts who ended up being really valuable. Um, there was a question we didn't get to, but like, who is your network? And I enjoyed reflecting on that because I realized most of my network are, yes, people I've worked with, but also like the friends I made at Holy Cross who have gone on to do equally awesome work, a lot of which shares values with my own work. So keeping those connections, whether it's people you're meeting at your internships or like your roommate or friend, I think 5, 10 years plus down the line, you never know what that might lead to because all these different people are going to go on to equally exciting work.
Awesome. And then Karina?
Yeah, I want to echo what Lily said with the open mind. Like back when I started, I was very narrow-minded. I only wanted Hispanic media. And then I was like very anti-sports for some reason at the beginning. And now like look where I am and it's where it's at. I love it. Like, and then I did some home design in between and I never really cared about home design and then realized like you don't have to love the content necessarily that you're working on. Like you grow to love everything as a whole. Like it's not just what you're like in the middle of, but it's like the tasks and the people that you're working with and for, and all of that kind of like makes the whole bigger picture. So that was something that I learned quickly. And then just in general, like it's cheesy, but it truly, like I just say, like follow your passions, like because when you love something, it doesn't feel like work. Everything kind of is easier. You're more motivated, you're interested, all of that will shine through. Um, and yeah, like don't worry so much about the money up front, like that comes in time. Don't worry about like the lack of work-life balance. Like as a page, you're working 6 days a week, sometimes seven. Like that all evens out in the end and it's so worth it. So like I say, like put in that time and it'll all, balance out in the end.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys again for all your answers. We'd like to open it up to student questions. Ben will be looking at the chat. You can also raise your hand. I think we can see that. So if any students have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat or however you want to.
I have a quick question before we start that. Are the writers' workshops still a thing at Holy Cross?
Yes, they are.
That's a very valuable asset that you guys could take advantage of because you're getting one-on-one feedback on your writing and you'll be able to kind of hone in and ask questions and it's stuff that you remember across the board for all the different pieces you work on. Writing wise, I think that's something that would be really valuable to people looking at comps, especially because everybody else has echoed the writing part. But getting that one-on-one attention to detail to me was invaluable.
Gabby, I think Macy's raising her hand.
Oh, perfect. Sorry, I'm blind. Okay, Macy.
Go ahead, Macy.
This is for like anyone that wants to answer it, but I guess just kind of given like what a broad spectrum of jobs like marketing kind of has to offer, do you have any advice about like what kind of entry level roles like you think are worth looking out for, or like the kind of roles that you looked for when you were applying for jobs and like what you think benefited you there?
I'm gonna plug the agency experience because I think it's such a great place to start if you're interested in comms, PR, marketing, advertising, anything in this field. Um, when you work at an agency, you will be staffed on multiple different accounts, and they could be accounts in all different industries and all different sectors. Um, so for example, once I started at a agency that specialized in healthcare, but putting that aside, once I switched jobs and went to a like more generalist, broad agency, I was working on clients that were in the food and bev industry. I was working on consumer finance clients. I was working on retail clients. And so I got a lot of broad exposure to PR, comms, marketing work in all different industries. And so I kind of got like a little taste of everything, which I found really valuable because then from there I was like, I really like consumer finance work. And from there I started doing more consumer finance work. And that's how I landed my job at Wells Fargo. So I think starting at an agency is a great first job because you get such a um, wide array of experiences. And then from there, you can kind of like pick and choose what you like and what you don't like. And that can kind of inform how you want to move forward.
I don't know if anyone else wants to touch on that. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I can just say like in terms of titles, I would look out for like assistant and coordinator level. There's usually like a description that says years of experience required or things like that. Um, I have an interesting anecdote because again, like coming out of the Page program, you're supposed to like get the full-time job. And there was one that the job that I got actually had the specialist title, which is kind of like associate manager, like the next level. And the like I was the least qualified and but I got the job because what they told me was like I was the most eager to learn, like the most passionate. So sometimes like your passion can trump like the experience, even though they knew I had just done a year in the Page program, that like how much experience can that really be? But if you show you're like ready to roll up your sleeves and willing to get the work done and learn quick, like you can convince them. So they did accommodate that level, the title down to coordinator. But that's like something too, like also I want you to be like open to other opportunities. And if you think that you can really like bring something to the table, don't be afraid to apply to something like that. Same thing if like it says you need to know like Photoshop or some kind of like program and you don't have that one skill, but you have everything else, like tell them, be upfront, I don't know this, but I can learn quickly or take like a quick certification or a course or something to like go into that, showing that you have tried this and like you're willing to learn. Like that same thing happened with me with the magazines. It was like InDesign I had never used before, and then you can learn quickly. So those are a couple tips too.
Awesome.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Tim, do you want to go next? Okay, perfect. Sorry, I thought I was on mute.
Sure. My question's for Karina more specifically, but I mean, other people can also jump in, but it's more directed towards you. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about your experience with like production and streaming and entertainment on that side of things.
Yeah, so production, like I said, I had only done marketing for like the internships, and production came in through the Page program. So the first, well, I guess audience coordination for like the late night shows at NBC is kind of production because that's like a whole behind the scenes world that like some of it shows up on TV, like the people in the front rows, but also just getting everybody in a timely manner. Like the show is live and you have to get everything, in the run of show. And same with like the live 4 hour news program of the Today Show. It's early mornings, it's fast paced. Everything like there's concert series on the plaza, there's all these things that go on. So that the Page program really got me like my foot in the door there. I had no prior production experience before that. And then the way that I got into streaming was actually through this career trajectory. So one thing that I try to do with every new job that I take is learn something new. So back when I was at NBC, like Peacock didn't exist. That was a code name. So I didn't even have like streaming specific experience there. That was like it's called linear, digital, and social. Linear is like broadcast live, TV, and cable from the page program. And then when I moved on to the magazines, I started exploring like print and experiential and events. And then when I went to Warner Bros. Discovery, that was when I started in streaming because Discovery Plus had just launched. So ad sales marketing, when you're pitching, you're not just pitching. Well, currently now I'm actually just pitching streaming, but back then you were pitching like cohesive packages and campaigns that touched upon like they're multi-platform. It's not just linear, digital, social, or streaming. It's all together usually. So that was kind of how I learned about streaming from that job. And then now at Fubo, it's primarily streaming. And like, if you guys have been reading the trades or if you're like tuned into the news, there's a lot happening with like mergers and acquisitions and crazy things going on with all of the companies. So that's just like where I think like the industry is heading. So it is a good place to be in. And I don't know if you have any like specific questions about production, but happy to answer that more.
Catherine?
So my question's like kind of anyone I think could answer it, but when searching for like a job and internship in like this competitive of a setting, how did you like kind of frame like Holy Cross? Because obviously Holy Cross doesn't have like a or communication major. So how did you like frame your experience here like towards the jobs you were applying for and internships?
I think, at least for me, it worked to my benefit because since Holy Cross doesn't have a marketing like niche or major, I was able to pull from a lot of different classes I'd taken. So I took a Photoshop, I took a photography course, I took a color theory course, I took different writing courses, different media courses, and I was able to come off almost even more well-rounded because I'd had so much more experience in different like mediums, fields, different types of communication. So from taking a film class and how film translates to actual script, which is different, to how sociology and philosophy and these different media outlets all combine to communicate one same message. Just kind of, I would pitch it like that, where you come out even more well-rounded in a way. You're more versed in different fields versus just one niche. And that makes you more valuable, right? Because then you're able to approach different stakeholders, different clients, different teammates with a much more open perspective, I feel, than if you just studied a basic marketing degree or 4 years. I don't know if my other co-panelists can echo that. And what's your experience been?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think having broad experiences, in my experience, always more valuable than like thinking very linearly about something, like being able to pull from different experiences, I think is more valuable than like thinking really narrowly about one thing. I think when I was applying to jobs, I definitely leaned more into my soft skills than my technical skills. So I really emphasize like I have strong writing skills, I have strong interpersonal communication skills, I have strong critical thinking skills, and emphasize that I'm a quick learner and like I'm really eager and dedicated to learn all the technical hard skills on the job, but like I already have the soft skills like down. And I think those are the ones that are harder to teach. Like you can teach someone through a training like how to use a certain software platform and they can pick that up in a few days. But like if someone doesn't have strong writing skills or strong critical thinking skills, that's much harder to teach. Like you either have it or you don't. Whereas the technical skills, like you can learn that on the job. So I would lean more into your soft skills when you're writing resumes and cover letters.
Okay, does anyone have any final questions? Okay, then I'll hand it off to you, Ben.
Awesome. If everyone could please join me in giving their round of applause, their reaction applause, emoji applause to these fantastic alums for giving us some time. I love this panel. I always learn a ton. Thank you to all of you for your continued dedication to the college and to students. Also want to recognize Gabby, who agreed to facilitate tonight. So, Gabby, great job. Thanks for doing it. These alums have also agreed to share their LinkedIn's with everyone too. So I will email out the LinkedIn's for Lily, Cecile, Caitlin, and Karina when the session when we close out of everything tonight. So just want to sort of wrap everything up and say, first of all, you all would have made great career counselors in another life. All of the alums here, you played my greatest hits, which I appreciate. But I especially want to drive home the point. I think multiple of the alums made it around sort of this like being open to things outside of your industry, as marketing, advertising, PR, communications. Companies of all types and all sorts of industries they need those types of professionals. So don't limit yourself to what's comfortable. That also goes with the internship search too. So this Career Center has awesome connections to organizations across industry, and don't limit yourself to what's comfortable. Macy, I'm going to publicly embarrass Macy. She did her internship this summer with Boston Ballet. And Macy, I don't want to speak with you. It seemed like you didn't have a huge ballet background, right? But she took that on and I think had a great experience, right? So that's a great example, right? Whether it's ballet, sports, media, whatever it is. So, all right. So thanks to everybody for coming out tonight. An event I want to plug that's coming up, it's not in Handshake yet, but it will be soon, is the media trip to New York City. We're still trying to nail down our employers, so I don't want to announce anything and totally jinx what we're doing. But we're going to do 2 employer visits and then a media reception in the evening. So, Lily and Karina, I know you guys are in the New York area. We'll reach out to you for the networking reception. Caitlin and Cecile, if you want to travel up to New York, I don't know why you'd want to do that in January, but if you do, come join us. That is taking place on January 7th, but more information about that. So come see us in the Career Center. You can book an appointment in Handshake or Monday through Friday, 1 to 4. Come see Gabby or one of the other peer career assistants for some help. We will also be on the Hovel tomorrow giving out pies. So if you join a career community, you get a table talk pie. So you pretty much can't beat that. So you're already probably in the career community. So just come say hi and bring your friends. With that, I will let everybody go. Good luck with the rest of this semester. Thanks one more time to our alums, and have a great evening. If our alum, Gabby, could hang out for 1 sec, that would be great once everybody takes off.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Good luck.
Good luck, guys.